LoreWarrior Online, BLR-2D Warlord. Overview. The BLR-2D Warlord is a streamlined model of the Battlemaster. As seen in the strong family resemblance, the Warlord is based on the original BLR-1 chassis, rather than one of the more recent Battlemaster models. However, after some weight reduction to use locally built Pitman 320 engines and new weaponry, General Motors' intellectual property lawyers deemed a new name was appropriate. To match the increase in firepower, the BLR-2D was renamed the Warlord. Oddly, GM went to pains to avoid its existing assault mech assets by using a new facility, the Camino Industrial Mech Facility on El Dorado, a new engineering team, their military branches having no personnel to spare in the late 3060s, early 3070, and a new design, the Battlemaster, which wasn't previously a GM product. Despite these hurdles, there were good reasons behind most of these decisions. El Dorado is one of the Federated Sun's golden 5 worlds, and if it's not known for its military production, it was virtually untouched by the Succession Wars and the recent Civil War. Its powerful civilian industry has been reaping the benefits of the Helm Memory Core for decades at this point. The most important reason, though, was that the San Ramir Davians wanted battle mechs. The San Ramir Davians might not have been politically very strong, but they are extremely wealthy bankers, with El Dorado in their hip pocket and access to the Battlemaster plan through a now defunct investment in Trelshaw Heavy Industries' Twycross facility. Diversified, GM could bring all aspects of battlemech production to one planet, free of the disruptions of the Jihad. It was practically a perfect match. Capabilities. The Warlord is meant to be independent for wars where supply issues are common. Heavy armor keeps it on the battlefield after lesser mechs may have fallen, while a standard engine and moderate center-torso weaponry gives the Warlord battlefield utility when those lesser mechs would have retreated with incapacitating damage. An entirely energy-based weapons array spares the Warlord dependence on conventional supply trains and also out-penetrates the Penetrator by pairing a massive primary battery of Magna Hellfire heavy PPCs with a potent short-range battery of 6 Martel extended-range medium lasers. The cooling system is sufficient to keep the Warlord firing either battery continuously or in a half-and-half firing pattern, all the while moving at top speed. More than battlefield thriftiness, though, the Warlord was streamlined industrially. Its single imported extravagance during the deprivations of the Jihad is the endosteel for its chassis. The remainder of the mech, except the focusing system for the lasers, is made of conventional materials and components that El Dorado's advanced industry ably retooled to produce. Even the powerful Hellfires simply use more of the common components of the Magna Hellstars. The overdeveloped Battlemaster second cockpit position, normally a wiring harness nightmare for production, is left completely vacant as elbow room for the pilot. Deployment. The Warlord entered full production in 3070 after live field trials in 3069. Warlords first went into El Dorado's Planetary Guard units, eventually forming several heavy cavalry battalions that are the spine of the planet's battlemech forces. After 3073, some of the production is now being used to rebuild the Davian Brigade of Guards. Variants. Disruptions in interstellar commerce made endosteel supplies spotty for the 2 Delta, but the crystalline polymers used in the double heatsinks and the XL engines were readily available from El Dorado's chemical industry. The 2G model of the Warlord exploits this by using a standard chassis and changing the Pitman's engine shielding to XL. The 2G is distinctive for its 2 quintuple torso laser base, consisting of standard medium lasers in a 2 over and 3 under format, but it's named for its 1G configuration of twin rear-mounted lasers. An additional ton of armor will attempt to compensate for the now vulnerable XL engine. Notable mech warriors. Lieutenant Melissa San Ramir Davian. A young, competent mech warrior of the El Dorado Planetary Guards, Lieutenant San Ramir Davian led a test lance of prototype warlords on New Syrtis. She secured fame by destroying 9 of the 3rd Macaron's armoured cavalry battle mechs at the Battle of Sasso City, which she modestly attributes to improbable luck, though other witnesses also note grievous tactical mistakes by her opponents on the day. While being showered with well-earned accolades, the Lieutenant hasn't been promoted since that incident. Her performance reports, with input from her commander and subordinates, indicate that she handles her mech well, but seems to have trouble coordinating her lance in battle. Subordinates also report a poor managerial style. She tries to be friends with members of her command rather than leading them, and a larger command would be a disaster until she can have her bad habits ground out. So the Warlord is a 80-ton assault. Its chassis is the Hollis Mark 12 the Hollis Mark 12 Endo Steel. I don't know why I kept trying to say extended steel. Fucking idiot. Power plant is a Pitman 320. Its cruise speed is 43 kph and its max speed is 64 kph with no jump capacity. Its armour is the Star Shield Special Heavy. It's armed by standard with 2 Magna Hellfire Heavy PPCs and 6 Martel ER medium lasers. It's manufactured by General Motors on El Dorado. The communication system is the Sony MSF-31, don't know how they got away with this back in the day, and its targeting and tracking is the Federated Stalker, a quality system which I believe we've spoken about before on these holovids, but for those who don't know, the Federated Stalker is a well-regarded system, particularly within the Federated Suns for many reasons, some of it propaganda, some of the fact that it is actually a pretty quality system, but it has a number of good quality of life features. It's actually launched with simplified Chinese as one of its user languages, which was well regarded for many users. There were many positive reviews from the military sector when it did launch, and there is a civilian model that's used for some systems, such as those for agricultural, mining machines, those kind of things where they need to be aware of other vehicles and users who are operating other agricultural mechs or farming mechs, those kind of things, or forestry mechs and such, while they're active in an area so they can track things. And yeah, it's remarkably good. It's a decent system. Got one myself, one of the civilian models. I'm trying to get hold of a military one. Best I can through a few of my own personal channels, I won't go into here, of course. I don't want to give away the game, but yeah, it's a nice little system. It might be a bit big. It does take up the space of a couple of small cars, but I do find the room somewhere in the house for these things. So the Warlord is a walk of 4, a run of 6. It has 16 double heatsinks for 32 dissipation ore, which is very good. Its armour is 9 on the head, standard, 38 on the CT, and 7 on the rear, 26 on the side torsos with 7 on the rear again, 26 on the arms, and 30 on the legs. So as it says, it is very, very chunky. It takes a lot to knock one of these machines down. It has a heavy PPC in its left arm, a heavy PPC in its right arm, and then it has 2 ER mediums in the left torso, 2 in the right torso, and 2 in the CT, despite the fact that it does look like those weapons are actually just 3 and 3 in the left and right torso. I guess for rule purposes they're visually that way, but they are stacked in a different setup. I quite like it. I like the idea of the Battlemaster chassis being the sort of the base that they designed this from. But they had to make a few changes, or they decided to make a few changes to accommodate newer weaponry. So it's a nice little callback to the classic Battlemaster, and in all honesty, I'm actually surprised that this artwork wasn't used as the basis for bringing back the Battlemaster in MechWarrior Online, because this kind of shape would have worked fine as the stand-in, until obviously Catalyst made their new updated look. For it, the new rescene, as it's called nowadays. But this would have been pretty decent as a base. I'm not saying just use this artwork and then build the model from it. I'm just saying that the head design in this was obviously fine as far as any legal snafus were concerned, with the arms and legs. So it looks enough like a Battlemaster that it didn't have to have those big, weird, sound baffles or something coming off the shoulders that they did in MechWarrior Online's version. Not that the Battlemaster in that looks terrible or anything. It certainly looks better than any of the new, the horrible Project Phoenix redesigns. But this one is definitely more evocative of the classic Battlemaster. But yeah, I mean, it's a solid mech. It can take the heat build up. It's a great mech as a reward, I think, for players who might be looking to augment their player forces. Yeah, it's a solid, straightforward, good medium-range brawler. Definitely the twin heavy PPCs can whack out a huge amount of damage, and then the 6ER mediums can just keep on firing. So yeah, it's a solid machine. Very difficult to damage. I mean, all that armor on the front there means it's well protected. It would take a lot of hits, and provided there's somebody who's protecting the rear arc of the machine, yeah, you haven't got much to worry about at all. It's going to stay in the fight for a long period, and even its movement speed at 4 and 6 means it can keep up with heavies in a lance, which also augments its flexibility on the field. Yeah, it's very, very good. It's a solid machine. Considering this also the default version isn't using XL engine as well, which means it doesn't even have to worry about that dreaded critical hit situation. So yeah, there are obvious drawbacks in some areas, but I think it's got more positives than negatives. This machine, it would be one I would be worried about bringing onto the field against for the games I run, because this kind of thing has just such solid firepower. And there's no real way that you couldn't say, well, it's going to fire all of its lasers, or it's going to fire, like a combination of 3 and a heavy PPC, because it can deal with the heat. So yeah, it's a tough one. And on a larger gaming table where you're doing operations and stuff, yeah, this thing is a pretty solid choice for a Federated Stuns force in this time period. Yeah, there's very few reasons not to bring a couple of these for certain lances, especially those that you want to be able to do as much damage as humanly possible. Obviously, its one drawback is range. Depending on the engagement, it will probably struggle. It'll have to cross a lot of terrain before it gets in there. But in the right circumstance, Jesus, this thing would be horrific. But that's the Warlord. I guess the brother, sister, I don't know, to the Battlemaster. But it's nice to see. Good write-up on that one. I like that. Anyway, I'll leave you all with that. Have a good one, as always. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.